Alright, so I've got my bullet journal behind me here, and also I have some clothes screwed up on my bed, so I'm going to strategically hide that with my body rather than tidy that up. What's up everyone, I'm Claire, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a February setup with me, but first I'm going to talk very briefly about how and why I use a bullet journal to keep organised at university. So if you're new to my channel, you might not know, but I'm a university student. I study maths at the University of Exeter in the UK, and I'm actually in my master's year. So keeping organised and on top of all my work and deadlines and coursework and exams and quizzes and everything is quite a task, and I wish I could keep it all in my head, but I know I can't. So I use a bullet journal to A, keep myself organised so I know what's happening, B, keep everything manageable, which is really important at university, or at least for me personally. I get very overwhelmed very quickly if people start throwing work at me, so I have to break it down and know when I'm going to get everything done and know that I have enough time to get things done before they're due. And C is to keep myself accountable. So that's why I decided to start bullet journaling, and I'm now going to talk a bit about how I do that. I wish I had the patience and the artistic talent required to make all these beautiful spreads that you see on Instagram and Pinterest, but unfortunately I don't. What works best for me is to have a bullet journal that doesn't take very long to set up. If I make a mistake, or if my handwriting isn't neat, or if it doesn't look particularly aesthetic, I really don't mind. That's not the point of it. I just need it to be practical and useful and help me with organisation. I have the weekly spreads, which is what I'm going to focus on because that's mostly what I use for university, and I also have a couple of random like trackers. I keep track of videos, so when I've been filming and editing and uploading, and just any ideas that I have for them. I'm going to focus on the weekly spreads for a minute because that's what I use for university. So essentially these work as glorified to-do lists. Here's one that I made earlier. This was week 2 of term. I just have everything that's inside of my brain and everything I'm constantly going like, oh, I need to remember to prepare for this quiz. Everything like that, I just write it in here, and then I can clear that space from my brain and not need to worry about it because I know I've got it written down. This is useful like on a daily basis, but it's also useful when thinking long term, because at university, in my personal experience, it's very much a game of time management. So for example, if I'm given a coursework that I know is like a 50-hour coursework or something, it's physically not possible for me to do it the evening before because there aren't 50 hours in a day. But I know that if I plan ahead and make sure I've allocated the time to it, I can get it done, and it takes the stress away from it a little bit. So this is very useful for that. And also on days that I know are going to be heavy workload days, I can kind of see that in advance and shift tasks around to lower workload days. It's essentially, I just use it as a kind of time management tool, and also as a to help me not forget to do things. A study tracker that I incorporate into every weekly spread, if that is ever going to focus. That kind of thing is purely to keep myself accountable. If I know that I have to draw it in, I'm less likely to do 0 hours of work because then I'll be embarrassed to draw in 0 hours onto my little graph. To summarise, I keep it very practical. It's mostly just lists. I've tried a couple of different kinds of weekly spreads. I've got this one that's just more like listing and with the trackers down the side. I'm trying this week to do this, which is I only put in here the tasks that have to be done on a certain day, and tasks that can be done whenever, I'll put them here rather than specifically assigning a day to them like I would have done here. We're going to see how that works. So that was a very brief overview of how I bullet journal. It's very practical. I'll make sure that I'm writing things in and ticking things off, but I only put kind of the overall task in here. So for example, if I have a quiz to prepare for, I'll just write prepare for quiz in here, and then on my phone, which I take around with me everywhere, I'll break the task down into manageable pieces. It's all very well to say revise for a test or prepare for a quiz, but if I don't tell myself how I'm actually going to do it, it can be a little bit of an overwhelming task that I'm more likely to put off. Whereas for something like the quiz prep, I'll break it down into much clearer actions. Breaking down a task like that just makes it more likely that I'll do it, and it's much easier to see how it's going to get done. And the very last thing that I use together with my bullet journal is I'll put reminders on my phone of literally everything, even things like if my parents have texted me and I've seen the text but I haven't replied to it in the moment because I'm like, oh, I'll reply to it later, I have had to start literally putting reminders in my phone for things like that, because at university there is so much going on all the time, not just with lectures and work being thrown at you, but like remembering to do food shop. I'm always thinking about like when my milk is going off, so I've got into the habit of just putting everything into reminders. And I'll schedule them so that they pop up on my phone, and it has cleared out like 50% of my brain storage. Everything is written down either in my bullet journal or scheduled reminders on my phone, and I just don't need to worry about remembering anything because it's all here. So if you're like me and struggle to hold a lot of things in your brain at once, then hopefully this might help you as well. So there we go, that was a whistle-stop tour of how I organise my life at university, and I am now gonna plan out my February.